morning. Hey, guys. Sorry we're a few minutes late. We had some tech issues, but we're here and you're here. Make sure to like Bold TV on Facebook. Even more important, put your comments and your questions here. So excited to be here with Clay Aiken.
It's a good Memorial Day weekend episode we've got for you. I think it's our biggest yet.
We've got it's huge. We got Deepak Chopra on his new book, You Are the Universe. And then we've got a congresswoman who is a member of the House Intelligence Committee. So we've got some great guests lined up. So you don't want to miss this whole conversation. Be sure to add your thoughts, questions, and we will throw them into the mix.
We're going to jump a little bit differently. We're going to format the show a little bit differently because we're so lucky to have Deepak Chopra with us today. That we're going to start with that. We'll do our headlines later in the day. Carrie?
We're starting with our bookster segment.
Yes.
So Sarah Hill is back as usual every week with an amazing new book.
Yes.
And so this week,
What'd you
we
bring?
are so excited.
Yes.
We brought Dr. Chopra here today. So,
Who really needs no introduction?
yeah, really no introduction.
Chopra.
Chopra.
So if Chopra was married to me, she'd be Oprah
Oh.
Chopra.
Oh, yeah, there's an idea for you right there.
Wow,
Thank
what
you.
kind of child would that be? That would be like
Oh my God.
basically God?
Yeah, I think so. I think so.
But you've got a whole
Actually,
bunch
everybody's God in drag.
in drag.
God in
There you go.
I didn't know I did drag, but now I guess I do.
Now you should.
I guess I'm already doing it.
This
I'm
is
already
a
doing it.
mask.
Already, that's true.
It is.
Yeah,
You've
that's
got
true.
a whole bunch of things that you are going around talking about, getting ready for right now. You've got this book, You Are the Universe. You've got some other things coming up. Why don't you tell us what's keeping you busy right now first?
Actually, I'm never busy. It's only my body that goes through the motions.
Yes, well,
I just watch the show. So
what's on the show?
a lot of things. I'm trying to see how we can pick up our visitor's badge in the insane asylum that we call
America?
the world. Well, actually, right now,
Everywhere.
the world. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm focused on how could we have a critical mass of consciousness that would move us in the direction of peace, social justice, economic justice, sustainability, health, happiness, joy, but on a massive scale.
Yeah, so kind of superficial stuff you got there.
Yeah.
Like, you know.
We need to be bold, and we need to reach at least 1 billion people by being bold. Otherwise, we're just kind of, as they say, pissing in the ocean.
How do you think that we can reach 1 billion people?
Through media, through conversation, through social networks, through education, through movies, through music, through
Books.
universities, through books,
Media.
through guys like you.
Media, though, in the past, well, I'd just say several years, but really in the past year or so especially, has become even more vitriolic, and people are there's so much more opposition. What causes it and what fixes it?
That kind of media is kind of slowly becoming a dinosaur. It's old. This is media right now. We are the media, and we have a different agenda. It's not about taking sides. It's not about polarizing opinion. It's about how can we collectively create a more peaceful, just, sustainable, healthier, and joyful world. Period.
Absolutely.
Deepak for president.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Well, and I know you just did a comedy bit where you had an interview with a Donald Trump of sorts on Comedy Central, where you basically told him that you love him.
Well, because people like our current president need empathy, compassion, love. And actually, he's in a way our teacher because he represents what psychologists call our shadow self, the part that we are all embarrassed about. So he brings it out, he brings the shadow out on a collective level. And the shadow is a very interesting part of every human being. It's that part which says, you're ignoring me, and if you continue to ignore me, then I'll embarrass you. So he's our collective embarrassment.
And do you
at the
think part
moment.
of that was the failure of the media to acknowledge the people who supported him and voted for him? Because that was one thing people said about
Yeah,
the
I
Donald
think the
Trump
worst
voters.
thing that was done by the liberal media, so-called liberal media, was to call his supporters deplorables. And I think that triggered the whole anger and the outrage that resulted in what I think is a
that was
bit of a
dehumanizing.
disaster.
It was
Yeah.
dehumanizing them.
Yes.
What fixes it though? I mean, I know you say the media, but individuals who are watching this show, or individuals who watch the mainstream, widespread broadcast type media, aren't really able to. They can't start their own. They don't necessarily start their own podcast. They don't start their own web series. What do we need to do in our daily lives to try to make sure that we're not growing more and more?
As a collective consciousness, we need to ask ourselves every day a little bit of reflection. Who are we? What do we want? What's our purpose? What do we do on a daily basis to manifest the dream that we have for ourselves, for our families, for our communities, for the world? What kind of world do we want to live in? What kind of world do we want our children and their children to live in? And what are we doing on a daily basis in every conscious choice that we make that actually represents our vision? Otherwise, we're just attacking each other, including me. I mean, I love to go out on shows and have been kind of, in a way, attacking, but in a hopefully not a mean-spirited way.
What about when two visions collide? Like, say that Clay has one vision of something that he wants for himself, and I want the exact opposite.
So, don't say I, say we. What do we want? Because there's no I. The I is a representation of the we. The individual I is just one representation of the collective we. Every thought you have is a result of hundreds of, if not thousands of years of conditioning. And what happens, we recycle that on and on and on and on. The same wars, the same terror, the same social injustice.
Well, and I think that's a perfect segue to talk specifically about your book, You Are the Universe. We have a video that explains a little bit. Let's play that video. We got that queued up, guys?
This is science which is based on subject-object split. That consciousness is a byproduct somehow produced by the brain. The problem with that is that all our science has also created climate change, atomic weapons, destruction of ecosystem, and now risking our own extinction. If there is going to be another extinction, it will be the gift of a science that is incomplete. A science that doesn't answer questions of why you have meaning or imagination or creativity. In fact, science discounts all those things. At some point, you've got to say, what's the fundamental nature of reality? Are we just an accident on a small planet, a speck of dust in the junkyard of infinity? Or are we indeed the universe looking at itself?
Wow.
So beautiful.
Gorgeous. And we got a comment here from Catherine Kinder. She says, "Good morning from Illinois. Dr. Chopra has helped me and many others get through these difficult times. Thank you." So, Catherine, but what I love about this book is that I think you take to task a lot of the scientific kind of establishment and say they're becoming as dogmatic as sort of religions were in the past. So can you talk about that sort of dogma in terms of the current science community?
Yes, there's science and there's scientism. Two different things. So science is a methodology. And it's an amazing methodology for looking at what we call facts, okay? And science is based on theories, which are, of course, conceived in our own consciousness, experiments, which are, of course, designed in our own consciousness, and then observations, which are also made in our own consciousness. And so science creates a map for what reality is. It's not reality, but a good map, because with that map, we can create technologies. Scientism, on the other hand, is the idea that science is a method for knowing the truth. The truth is much more elusive. The truth is not this experience we're having right now, because this experience will be gone in 15 minutes. Of course, it might live on the internet for a while, but every experience arises and subsides in your own being, in your own consciousness. And your consciousness is the only constant in every experience. You say, I had Chinese dinner yesterday. I was a child. I was a baby. I'm a doctor. I am having distress. I'm in love. I is the only constant. Nobody asks who that I is, and especially science. So science is incomplete because it only looks at that which we observe, never asking who's the observer and why does the observer want to know what he or she or it wants to know. Who is it that wants to know? And everything that we know is in our own awareness. So we use words like book, like coffee cup or microphone. These are words that describe modes of knowing and experience. And unless you ask who's having the experience, the universe is an experience. It's not a thing. Okay? And how do you experience the universe? As sensations in your own body, sense perception, sound, touch, sight, taste, and smell, as feelings, emotions, and as thoughts. This is the raw material of experience that we ultimately end up calling mind, body, universe.
I think some scientists would argue that part of the defense against this experience and the individualism that I think you might mention comes along with some science is the fact that a lot of studies are double-blind and they use a whole bunch of different people to try to eliminate that. Is that a solution for this hurdle that you say science may have?
No. Science is a very good methodology for a certain aspect of reality. But talk to a theologian and they'll say, my map is also good. Talk to somebody who's a religious person, they'll say, you haven't actually engaged in self-reflection and meditation and prayer and a deeper understanding of the self. My map is good too. But what I'm saying is no system of thought, religion, theology, philosophy, or science has access to truth. Only you, as awareness, have access to truth. Awareness is the fundamental ground of all experience. You're not your body. Your body is an experience in you. You're not your mind. Your mind is an experience in you. You're not the universe, even though that's the title of my book. The universe is an experience in you. So you have to see what is this you in which all this is an experience. Unless you go there, and that's not a system of thought, that's transcendence of thought.
So you're telling me that there is such thing as alternative facts? Is that what you're trying to say?
Well, Melissa Pollock says,
because
how is what
facts
he's...
are modes of knowing using the same process. You mentioned double-blind studies. So facts are modes of knowing using the same process. They're intersubjective knowing in waking state of consciousness.
Can I ask, how does this relate to time?
In the
Because that's a
deep now,
constant too.
in the deep now, there is no time.
Okay.
Time happens as soon as there's differentiation between observer and observed. So let me explain that. We said in that video, we are the universe looking at itself, right? This is the observation deck for the universe to experience itself, particularly this, right? The brain. So you can say very clearly that as soon as the differentiation, me and other, me and the universe, me and everything else, time is born. But when you transcend me as the other, because me and the other, me and all of us, are an experience in the same deep now, at all times.
Okay, so my mind is completely blown. So I'm going to let Joanne Lopez, who's talking to us who's watching us on Facebook, speak for me. She said, I have so much respect for Dr. Chopra, but as a mere mortal, will I be able to understand you are the universe?
Actually, you will be. And what you have to do is start every day with a little bit of reflection and stillness. Close your eyes, put your attention here, ask yourself, who am I? Without this name and this form, because this form is constantly changing, right? This form
Yeah,
was a
mom's getting
baby, teenager, this mind. Yeah. So who am I? Ask yourself, and then listen to your own self. Ask yourself, what do I really want from my life? Ask yourself, what is my purpose? Ask yourself, even more important, what am I grateful for? And if you're not grateful or surprised by the fact that you exist, then you've never had a spiritual experience. Spirituality is to be totally bewildered and to be totally astonished.
Well,
by
I
the
am
fact
definitely that.
Well, then that's it. You know, there's a poem of Rumi, it says, exchange your cleverness for your bewilderment.
Oh, I love that.
Definitely
No,
believe
I'm going to tattoo with that.
Carrie with a tattoo.
Only that one. So, but Deepak, I got to challenge you. We got a commenter here on Facebook. Melissa Pollock says, how is what he has to say anything different from fake news? And I know you wrote this book with a world famous physicist and a scientist. And some people say, oh, you know, Deepak, he's just sort of got his head in the clouds. But what I love about your book is that you look at the science and you have a co-author who understands physics and quantum
Yeah, no, my
physics.
co-author is a quantum physicist and a cosmologist and is actually a climate change expert. But that's not even important. She has a perspective, and she has a legitimate perspective in that everything that we say, any one of us, comes from our own conditioning. And the conditioning is deep. It's religious conditioning, economic conditioning, conditioning by history, by our parents, by our education. So in the deeper reality, there is either no point of view or all points of view. And when you're open to that, then actually you're not dogmatic about anything.
I have a
That's
question.
what leads to creativity.
Wow. You should be in a presidential debate.
No.
That's like the best answer.
Do you think that every person has a purpose? So when they're asking themselves, when they have that silent time, if we only got that every day, where they're quiet, looking internally, forgetting about their external distractions, and they find something there, do you think that that's their purpose? Or how does somebody find their purpose if they don't know what it is?
Well, there are many ways. So, you know, Joseph Campbell had a famous phrase, follow your bliss. Ask yourself what would make you happy. Ask yourself, does your career, your job, and your calling is when you commit yourself to something bigger than yourself. If your job is what you're doing today, career is over a long time, but calling is what your contribution is to the world, then when they're in alignment, you'll find your purpose. I frequently ask people, what would you do if you had all the money in the world and all the time in the world, and how would that change people's lives, and would you be having fun? If you can answer that, you found your purpose.
That's
And
great.
Deepak, you know, talking about purpose and meaning, in this country, we have a major problem right now with opioid addiction, where we see the deaths are skyrocketing. I think the Wall Street Journal just reported that there are more deaths now than the AIDS crisis, or it's comparable to the AIDS crisis of the 1980s. So the addiction and people who are looking to substance for relief, why do you think we're seeing this growth, and what would you advise for people who are dealing with these issues?
I've always thought of addiction as a substitute for the ecstasy or exaltation of our spirit. So I find that actually addicts are very spiritual people. They're just using the wrong means to get to that experience that we all look for. The word ektasis comes from to step out of this so-called world of space-time and causality, and transcend to who you really are as a spiritual being who's having a human experience. And, you know, if you look at addicts, that's what they want. When people are ecstatic dancing, that's what they're experiencing, or music, or poetry, or in nature, or when they fall in love. Even sexual ecstasy is a part of this deep yearning that we all have to know who we are as timeless spiritual beings. So I have deep empathy for people who have addictive tendencies, and actually we treat people with addictive behavior. Unfortunately, the opioid epidemic is caused by medical doctors. You know, There are prescription drugs, of course, now they're available, but there are more people dying of addictive substances prescribed legally than those obtained illegally. So I think, one, it's the responsibility of physicians and healers and people in the medical profession to see what are people really looking for and how do we give that to them. So, it doesn't become an epidemic, which it has become, unfortunately.
Sarah, you bring in such a variety of different authors and books. Why does this one, in your opinion, why is it a book that bookstore readers, that your audience would really like?
Well, first of all, thank you. I really appreciate that. And thanks for giving me the opportunity to do that for our bookstore viewers out there. I think that something that we do for bookstore, and something that I saw very early on in books, is that you can provide people, no matter where they are, some inspiration in what they're doing. And I think that Dr. Chopra does that very well. You can't always, you can't help your circumstance, but you can go to a library, read a book, and do things that will help enlighten you in some way, shape, or form. And so I think that because of that, it just made sense for us.
And you've made a life out of doing that, Carol. Bringing that to people. Carol Brady says, she's watching on Facebook, she says, I feel exponentially more calm right now. And I don't know if people notice, I kind of am too. Yeah. Just being around you, I need you to just come hang out with me for an hour a day.
The most important thing you can do for yourself
is calm down.
And for the world, is to be present. That's what calmness is. It's just not to be distracted, it's to be present. The most important task at hand is right now. The most important people are the ones in front of you right now. And the most important to create a better future is to be present now. Because if you're always thinking about the future, when it finally arrives, you won't be present for it.
And that's what we do. We do that all the time.
Yes.
Both of us have our cell phones here. Yeah. We've got this. I mean,
just be present.
It's so difficult.
It's very important.
How do you stay present and still think about things like the universe and how things happen? How do you maintain that?
When you're in that state of presence, which I also call choiceless awareness, then the universe downloads itself without the filter of thought. It's the filter of thought that separates us from the universe. But when you just accept this moment as it is, without resistance, without regrets, without anticipation, just this moment with no resistance, it's joyful.
Well, and Deepak, I know that you meditate 2 hours every morning, or you meditate every morning when you wake up. How do you do that? Because you've got this media empire, you've got a lot of influence, you've got a business. Thoughts I can imagine, would be racing through most people's heads. So how do you physically wake up in the morning and just center yourself and sit there in a room quietly?
You're trying to get advice.
I've done it. I've done it now for several decades, almost 30 years. So it's a ritual for me, and it's the only important thing in my day. The rest is like a breeze. So I'm having a good time right now, and I'm enjoying myself because of the ritual that I went through this morning. The rest is like a breeze.
And we say that, and they say that a lot of the most successful people in politics and business, Bill Clinton, I know, is one of them, that they meditate every morning. I mean, it's part of the
he has the
process
three
for
secrets to absolutely amazing life. Number one, be present.
Check.
The only time is now. Number two, be warm, friendly, because only through connecting by other people will you know yourself. And number three, be independent of the good and bad opinions of the world.
Oh, I got that one down pat. The second one I'm working on.
That's Stoicism. That's Stoicism. And anybody who knows me knows I'm obsessed with the Stoics and Stoicism.
That was my birthday present from Carrie this year.
I got him a Stoic book.
If you're offended by every good or bad thing that is said, then you'll be offended for the rest of your life, and you will never have true self-esteem. You'll only be subject to the whims and fancies of the opinions of the world. You'll be at the mercy of every stranger on the street.
I've got rhino skin, doctor. I'm set. Maritza Puello. I'm going to say Puello. I don't know if she says that, but we'll see. Put us in the comments how you pronounce it. Maritza Puello, she's going to wrap it up for us. Thank you, Deepak. And then I messed it up for sharing your knowledge and wisdom. Very needed at this time, very needed at this point in our life and our history and our country and our world. So thank you very much for being with us today. Thank you,
you for
Sarah
having
Hill,
me.
as always, for being
thank
here
you.
with us.
Thank
Something
you for
fascinating
choosing
and
me.
interesting. You can get You Are the Universe wherever books are sold. So check that out. And we'll see you next week, Sarah.
Sounds great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Namaste.
Namaste.
Thank you.
I do feel like there's more, that there's a little
so
more
centered.
calmness and
Yes.
in the room today, which we need, to be honest with you, today, Bold.
After